Hello, sorry about that. Sorry about that, everyone.
Hi, TJ.
Yeah, sorry about that, Fiona. There must have been a mix-up, but Gordon actually tried to start another Zoom meeting with it, but he has moved on to a different platform.
Okay. Do you want me to continue or should we wait?
We have 37 attendees so far. I'm going to wait for Jay to come back. I think if you got your slides back up where they were, and we can see who'll come back.
Do you remember can you tell me where I finished for you guys?
I think you were around slide 10 or 12. You were about halfway through.
Can you enable participant sharing? I can't share my screen yet.
Okay, just a sec.
Apologies everybody for the technical difficulties there. Thank you for your patience, and we will be resuming again shortly.
Okay, apologies again. Okay, Fiona.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so hi everyone. I think I finished here when we were last on. So I was just starting to talk really about the potential cost reductions for logistics for wave and tidal arrays, and my overview, I guess, of what I think the key challenges for these arrays would be in terms of logistics. So the first one would really be the lack of standard practices for wave and tidal, considering the limited amount of experience there currently is with so many different concepts and few at full scale. So there's no standardization of practices or sharing of know-how to develop best practices. In addition, there's no specialized supply chain or equipment or technicians. I guess at this stage, you'd have, it would be too expensive to have specialized vessels for this sector. So they must rely on existing supply chains where bottlenecks may cause delays. And the lack of specialization, I guess, means it could cause delays in terms of completing operations in the most effective manner. Obviously, the major challenges finding appropriate weather windows. We're talking about arrays in very energetic sites. Wave, wind, and tidal currents will pose a challenge to accessing those sites and completing operations. Also, we have the issues of things like corrosion and biofouling. So you typically have steel devices that must survive submerged in corrosive salt seawater. You have different creatures that could attach to the devices, affecting performance. So you need to undertake regular cleaning. And you also have health and safety issues. So these environments are obviously very dangerous, requiring best practices, experience, training and testing or simulation in advance of actual offshore operations to minimize risks. So those, I would say, cover the main challenges and risks in terms of logistics. So where could we actually find cost reduction opportunities? I think the Strategic Initiative on Ocean Energy outlines or summarizes these quite well. So one opportunity would be in terms of improving the efficiency of operations and the optimal planning of activities to minimize the requirement for offshore activities, develop techniques and procedures with cheaper vessels, avoid unnecessary use and costs of resources or assets, improved resources and infrastructure to facilitate efficiency and reduce costs. So for example, an OE specific vessel that maximizes available weather windows. And also looking at improved device and array design for reduced life cycle costs. So by that, they mean improved reliability of the technology and array infrastructure that minimizes failures, build in redundancy so as to minimize downtime and maintain power production, reduced number of components, so one foundation for several turbines, for example, to save installation and maintenance costs. Ease of maintenance, so components are easily accessible, and floating devices should be significantly cheaper as well. So with little practical experience, how can you actually evaluate costs and put into practice some of these ideas for optimizing operations? Well, the European Technology and Innovation Platform has emphasized the need to selectively adapt good practices from other sectors, developing bespoke operations and tools, and documenting and sharing experience with will be crucial to rapidly reducing these costs. So in terms of my work in Selkie, we're focusing on looking at bespoke tools and developing a decision support tool that would allow users to simulate operations across the life cycle, considering uncertain factors, for example, weather and failures and their impact on the costs and the duration of a project. And also tools that would allow you to optimize the logistics required for particularly the installation and O&M phase. So for example, the port selected, your offshore vessel fleet, your activity schedule, etc. So the Selkie tool, what we're planning to do is to develop it with the best functionality that we can be applied to numerous different types of concepts. And we're going to apply that to pilot case studies based on existing projects by Ocean Energy in terms of a wave energy converter, and Sabella in terms of a tidal energy converter. As well, we're looking to develop a series of generic case studies relevant to Ireland and Wales and analyze different areas for optimization to produce final recommendations. The tool itself, as TJ was saying, is going to be made available. So it needs to be user-friendly and flexible in terms of assessing different technologies and also being able to assess a scenario with different levels of detail that the user will have available to them. And we're going to do this by building on existing tools that we've developed in previous projects and know-how, particularly for offshore wind. But we also really need to know from industry what strategies must this tool be able to test and what sort of generic case studies would be of most interest to the industry. So we need to, in more detail, we need to, for the widest range of concepts possible, we need to know what are the installation methods that you're currently considering for tow out or lift of your device. What are the vessels you're planning to use, the equipment and the different costs? What sort of operation and operation durations would be involved in that installation? What sort of weather restrictions? So what is the significant wave height or the maximum tidal current that you can complete that operation at? What are the risks and challenges you would envisage? Do you have experience in installing these sorts of devices so far? These would be similar questions for the other life cycle phases, but just to put it in context for O&M. In particular, the different O&M strategies that you might be considering. I think from our initial survey, we would anticipate there being three main strategies. One would be undertaking all maintenance offshore at the site. This could require larger, expensive vessels to provide adequate stability offshore. So some people are advocating onshore maintenance. This would mainly obviously be for floating devices that could be easily detached and towed back to shore where maintenance takes place in a sheltered harbour. That would reduce the weather concerns and you could use cheaper vessels like tugs. But you would probably need to have designed your device for a plug-in and play, so to speak. So it would be really quick and fast to detach. Another option would be undertake some maintenance activities such as minor inspections offshore, but towed to shore for major repairs or replacements. So we want feedback from industry in terms of what they're thinking, what they're expecting, what's their strategy. And in order to gather this sort of feedback, this is what I really want to leave you guys with is we've developed a survey to gather this feedback, and the survey to participate, it's a questionnaire that's available on the website following this webinar. If you have any issues, by the way, please use Google Chrome to access the survey. I found there's issues sometimes when using Windows Explorer. But this survey will just cover those different questions that I've gone through in terms of O&M, so that we would be able to gather from industry players across the supply chain what your feelings are in terms of what are the likely strategies, what does our Selkie tool need to be able to simulate in order to come up with the cost assessment. Like I said, we'd appreciate feedback from industry across the supply chain in whatever level of detail you can provide us with. Your input will be anonymous by default, but if you are willing to be contacted for further discussions, if you're more comfortable on a one-on-one discussion, please include your email address in the survey. And I just stop for any questions halfway through. Jay, do you have?
Thank you for that presentation, Fiona, and apologies for the issues there interrupting your presentation. Well done on carrying on nice and smoothly. If anybody has any questions for Fiona, please feel free to submit them via the Q&A feature. Fiona, I think it'd be great if you could share a link to your questionnaire in the chat function so that people can access it. We'll also be hoping to share that link after the event as well. So this is shaping up to be what could be a very useful tool for the sector, but my impression from that, Fiona, is that you really need as much industry input to really shape the usability of that. So by all means, everybody who's paying attention, watching today, please feel free to take part in that questionnaire. And then hopefully we can have a nice, useful tool that will help everybody in their operations and maintenance in the future. So we are going to move on to our next speaker, as we're a little bit behind on time after that minor interruption, but it's good to see that there are still so many of you with us. So moving on now to Monesto's experience of operations and maintenance in the supply chain. So giving this talk will be Oshan Roberts, who is Monesto's Business Development Manager. So warm welcome to Oshan.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I'm about to share my screen and switch my video on. Do we have a full screen there, or do we just have the editing? Here we go. This is better. So just bear with me a second. Okay, yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to present. My name is Oshan Roberts. I'm a business development manager for Monesto, working in Wales at our office in Hollyhead. And I'll give you 15, 20 minutes or so on who we are, what we've been doing in Wales, what's our sort of plans for the future, our engagement with the supply chain, and hopefully show you some sort of nice or explain some sort of excellent opportunities on how we will potentially expand Monesto's project portfolio moving into the future. This is an excellent picture we have right here of our deep green Kite towed out into the harbour in Hollyhead in Wales. Beautiful day as it is as always, of course, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about our Kite as I move along. I seem to have a technical issue with the slides. Are they moving forward for anyone else?
Try pushing the down
Yes.
arrow, Ocean.
I've got them all pushing. Just bear with me. I'll try and stop and share again. See if that works. Here we go. So that should have moved now. Excellent. Okay, so Monesto, fantastic statement there, an equipment provider of game-changing renewable energy technology. And, you know, our technology is quite different to what you've probably seen before. Some of you, of course, would have heard us speaking in many of these kind of webinars or conferences the last few years. But really, we're a company founded in Sweden, Saab spin-off. Really, the technology came from Saab Aerospace, where we use the concepts of maybe flying a stunt kite in the wind. We do the same thing underwater. And if any of you has ever flown a stunt kite in the wind, you feel the power of the wind in those turns as you manipulate the control strings of that stunt kite. And essentially, we do the same thing, but subsea. You'll see there the sort of development of the prototypes, the concepts of Monesto's Kite technology, this deep green technology from the left, where we're simply towing it behind a boat in a lake in Sweden, to the deployment of our utility scale deep green device in Hollyhead up to 2019. We've been around since 2007. You know, we've received considerable private backing from the main owners, BGA Invest and Midrock New Technology, as well as some significant public sector backing through the Welsh Government. And we're also listed on the Nasdaq First North in Sweden since 2015. There are 55 plus employees, it says there, but I'd probably say 60 plus employees between Sweden, the UK and Taiwan. And it's the company structured that the design and the simulation of the kites is conducted in Sweden, whereas the UK works as an operations base for the deployment of this at utility scale. In Taiwan, we have some research facilities looking into ocean currents. Now, it's important for me to give you this context and an understanding of the potential for marine energy, because the greater potential in this leads into greater sort of supply chain and possible export potential and building an industry in the UK and in Wales. Now, we're not saying that Monesto is the only solution to everything here, but what we're saying is that, you know, we can provide predictable energy with no weather dependency, because we are below the or deep enough in the water column so not to be affected by those elements. There is a significant expansion potential, which I'll touch on later. A minimal use of land and physical footprints, because again, we are subsea. Of course, there'll be some connection ashore, but a really good indicator of the possible the great number rare really for levelized cost of energy is 45 euros per megawatt hour. This is what we're estimating that we can bring the cost down once we have a gigawatt of installed capacity using deep green units. Okay, so it's another slide to sort of try and set some context. We know that there is a need to fill the UK energy generation gap, and this is a slide I saw in a presentation last year from Cambridge Econometrics, who state that given the UK government's policy position right now, if there's no change and we stay as we are, there will still remain this gap in terms of trying to meet the government's net zero targets by 2050. So is there room for an emergency technology like tidal and marine energy? I would say yes. We would also want to now look to sort of lead this green recovery, especially here on Anglesey, where, you know, we've heard the sort of terrible news really that in terms of the economy, that's the nuclear plants is no longer even suspended, but it's been Hitachi have actually pulled out of that altogether. So there are indeed some opportunities there. This is an excellent slide. It just gives you an idea of how our kite works. The animation on the left-hand side is the deep green kite tethered to the seabed, the tide flowing towards the underside side of that wing, and it gives you an idea of how these turbines would function in array configuration. The video on the left shows our test site in Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland. The kite actually doesn't come this close to the surface. We just changed the sort of telemetry of that for the video purposes only, but it gives you an idea of this figure of 8 motion, that it does fly, meaning that it accelerates the flow of water through the turbine by a factor of 10. So effectively, we've strapped the turbine to the underside of a wing, where it spins, creates electricity, brings it down the tether cable along the seabed and into the grid. We have, as well as the product that I showed earlier in the first slide, we have deep green utility and deep green microgrids. So 2 product lines to sort of provide this flexibility and increased market opportunities. One is for the utilities market, the other is for microgrids. They're different sizes. They produce a different level of power, and they operate in slightly different conditions in terms of depths and water flow, for example. We have been able to prove the concept at each scale, and we were, well, I'll talk about what we've been doing in Hollyhead in the next couple of slides, actually. Now, before I give you the case study on Hollyhead, this is a fantastic slide which was put together from Black and Veatch and it aims to sort of look at the available tidal resource in the UK for a technology like Monesto. So if we're looking at sort of 60 to 120 meters in depth with a tidal flow of between 1.25 and 2.5 meters per second, it gives us an available area of which we could potentially capitalize on of sort of 10,000 plus kilometers squared. Now, this is very high level. There's some work to do on micro siting and so forth and distances from shore, but it's just to give you an idea of the sort of potential we have there. And then I have this figure of 4 or greater than or more than 4 gigawatts of energy, but we're looking at that 4 gigawatts of energy as the potential in the Irish Sea, and there would be additional installation capacity potential when we're taking up the sort of other areas where this model has been put together for. Hollyhead Deep, like I said, we've been in Wales since 2015. We've been able to sort of successfully demonstrate our first utility scale kites. And we've invested a considerable amount alongside the Welsh government through ERDF. And the number there is around 51.5 million euros to date. Now, from that, the success is twofold. Yes, we need the technology to work. Yes, we need it to produce power, connect to the grid. But also, to success in emerging industries, your ability to sort of integrate yourself into the local supply chain. And in that respect, we've been working with, it's probably more than 40 right now, of Welsh supply chain companies involved in this project, the phase 1 and phase 2 commissioning in Hollyhead Deep. And I'll talk a little bit about who they were or who they are later on. It's also important for me to say that we've established a headquarters in the UK. So Monesto UK's headquarters is in Hollyhead, and the positive impact of that is that we have 18 full-time equivalent jobs, with 80% of those I'd call them hyperlocal from Anglesey itself, and that's a 20 by 20 mile island. And we've been able to source quality individuals there in really sort of high skilled jobs. So, these people are out there. If you have the right technology, if you can develop an industry, there's people there that can help facilitate that. And the third point there is to sort of talk about and I'll show you some pictures in a couple of slides, our most recent success story, if I can call it, is the build and fit out of what we call an assembly and maintenance asset. We're looking at, bringing the kites in, maintaining them ashore, building them, testing parts, possible export facility. So it really is an excellent asset for us. And at Hollyhead Deep itself, our ambitions is to phase that up towards an 80 megawatt commercial tidal array. Gives you an idea of the system that we put in place in Hollyhead. You see the kite on the left-hand side there, the tether moving to our anchor block, and the umbilical and subsea connection moving to our microgrid buoy system. It's true to say that we're not connected to the grid right now at Hollyhead, but we are working closely with Moral Ice, the West Anglesey demonstration zone, to establish a grid connection in line with their timeline. Some nice pictures there. What it shows is that we are Deep Green is a kite and a tidal turbine that is different, as I say, and it has its selling points in that it's modular. It's much lighter than conventional technology, meaning that we can sort of reduce costs when it comes to operations and maintenance by using much smaller vessels. Like you can see there, it can effectively be towed to site and installed very, very quickly. In phase one of the project, we did use sizable vessels, but when we came to the sort of second part of commissioning, or the second stage of commissioning last year, we were able to sort of install the whole system by towing it out to site. Once we were there, the installation process took an hour, which is very, very quick in this type of industry. Our assembly hall, like we call it, some of you may have seen the press release on this recently. We built that. We're working with Stenaline and Jones Brothers Civil Engineering from North Wales. We completed this very recently, and the total investment is near £1 million. We've leased this for 10 years. It provides us with an ideal kind of logistical base to launch, to recover, and to maintain the kites within close proximity to a deep water port. And it's proven to be a great asset to date. You can see on the right hand side at the bottom, it's just an illustration of 6 sort of utility scale kites side by side in there. There's lifting gantries, we've got electronic test areas, we've got clean areas, we've got welding bays, and we do hope to sort of set up a virtual inauguration of the assembly hall quite soon. So we will be sending an invite out, so please keep your eye on that. Okay, so success. Yes, we're successful with the technology, but like I mentioned, success is key. Integrating the supply chain is absolutely key to the success of what we do as an industry. Now, I'm speaking from our perspective, but there is indeed crossover with other developers. I'm sure, we have these needs. We have specialist component supply, and it's true to say that a lot of those are sort of imported by ourselves to Hollyhead right now, because like Fiona said before, maybe the specialist supply chain doesn't exist just yet. But we've been working with engineering and fabrication companies, storage and logistics, and all these kind of all these companies listed under the themes here. Now, these companies are there, and they can be dynamic because they're local. If they're local and small, they can be dynamic and they can meet your needs sometimes a little bit quicker than a more established company. So they can maybe do a smaller job a little bit quicker. And that has been sort of hugely key for us in trying to solve some issues that have come up at very short notice for us at Hollyhead. And, to give you an example, we've got, in terms of the offshore support services, we've got a guy working on a crew transfer vessel who used to be a fisherman, who adapted his boat for us and was able to take our engineers out into Hollyhead Deep in some terrible weather. And the skill that guy showed to get our guys onto our microgrid system buoy and able to start the kite up and get it flying, that guy there, Andy Hume, he's called, he was a massive piece of the puzzle. So it's really important to understand the importance of this local supply chain and its value to what we're trying to do. And once you have that understanding, you can begin to offer these people a lot more work in something that they've already established themselves in, whether it's the welding, the fabrication, or the crew transfer vessel. And it brings this clustering and enables those guys to sort of diversify in doing the same work that they've already done into an industry that they would never have considered maybe 2, 3, or 4 years ago. I think this is my last slide. It gives you an idea, if we can sort of establish this supply chain cluster and enable these guys to sort of diversify into a marine energy industry, there's a possibility for those guys then to open up themselves to markets all over the world. And just from Monesto's perspective, these projects that we have Hollyhead Deep that we've already talked about, a couple of pictures there. We have also the Faroe Islands project, where we're looking to deploy very, very soon our 2 pilot installations for our microgrid device. We have an established revenue support mechanism there with a utility customer in the Faroe Islands, SEV, and that has a scale-up potential of up to 70 megawatts in commercial farms. Our sort of 3rd active project right now is in France. It's in Brittany, and it's part of the EU-funded Interreg Tiger project. And there again, we're trying to demonstrate our microgrid system in shallow waters, which is a different challenge to what we're used to, and that's in collaboration with one of our direct partners there, EDF. Taiwan, I've talked about, we're looking at site development in tidal stream and ocean currents, because we talked about the tide and how we operate in the ebb and flow of the tide, but a really important market for Monesto is ocean currents, such as the Gulf Stream, where our technology, being able to produce energy in a low flow environment, can capitalize upon quite effectively. And similarly in North America, we're collaborating with universities out there in Florida and a small kind of city, as they call it, in order to try and meet their low carbon needs for the future. And that's me. Thank you very much. My contact details are on there, and I can take some questions a little bit further on. Diolch.
Thank you very much for that, Oshan. Very much looking forward to your inauguration event. And for me, it was great to hear how valuable the skills of local fishermen are to your operations and maintenance of your devices there. We've had a couple of questions that have come in, which I think might be good to give to you right now. So one question that came in from Trey Taylor was saying, rather than head to rural areas, given the studies show that 2/3 of people will be living in cities by 2050, and that's the significant effect that that's going to have on energy demands. Maybe you could talk a little bit about why you've chosen to establish in Wales, or why specifically Hollyhead, Anglesey area, instead of establishing this technology near a larger urban hub. Why the Irish Sea?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, as a developer, you need to look at the appropriate resource. And we are we're certainly a few years away from where we started in Wales right now, but we went in there to demonstrate what we were able to verify at a quarter scale size in Northern Ireland. So it's important for the developer to be able to pick the appropriate resource for themselves in order to verify the technology. We can then connect to the grid, and the grid distribution network is then available for all. And I would say establishing yourself in a peripheral area, cities, I'm sure they're economic hubs, aren't they, already? But again, peripheral areas, there's probably quite more of a significant need to develop the sort of economic base in those places when it comes to jobs and growth. So it has a benefit for Monesto, and it also has the benefit for the local economy, I would say.
Thank you. So yeah, a lot more focused benefit in these areas, and also this is where the vast resource that we want to tap into is. We have another question aimed at you, Oshan, if you don't mind us delving into this one. This is from Jan Skorhammer. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So could you give us an estimate of the levelized cost of energy at a good site? For instance, 5 or 50 megawatts installed capacity in total?
I mean, like I said, we work towards, there has to be sort of an expectation that the levelized cost of energy in emerging technologies will be a little bit higher to begin with. We see from the statistics that we put forward in one of my earlier slides that, a levelized cost of energy of 45 euros per megawatt hour by a gigawatt installed is something that we believe in. People say, yes, it's aggressive, but these are the numbers that we have to aim for. We're probably not there right now. Nobody is there right now. But, given a site with 50 megawatts, for example, once we have the technology developed to the level it needs to be, those are the figures that we will be at. We will be competitive.
Thank you for that, Oshin. Yeah, good to hear. And yeah, we'll be moving on shortly as we are still a little bit behind because of the technical disruption earlier. So up next, we have Sarah Livett, who's the Selkie project officer. She'll be talking a little bit more about the Selkie network.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Hi, everybody. I'll just get my slides up. Bear with me. Yeah, so just a short piece from me today about getting involved in Selkie, really. So we would advise anybody to get involved in the marine energy sector, whether you already are or not. Perhaps you're interested in learning a bit more and joining the sector. So if you join the Selkie network, you'll be joining a free cross-border innovation network where you can build contacts across the Irish Sea. You can learn about the marine energy sector and gain knowledge and support from us. And if you join this sector, you can take advantage of the growing opportunities. As you can see from the other speakers today, this is a rapidly growing sector, and there will definitely be opportunities out there from various companies, developers and projects that are on the go. I would say we're planning a series of 6 webinars as Selkie, and this is our second. We are already working on the content for the next 2, so definitely keep your eye out for those as well. And yeah, basically to get involved with Selkie and to join our network, just get in touch. Some of you may have noticed Sophie on our panel today, so we've welcomed Sophie Crouch to Menter Môn this week. So bear with her, it was her first week. So if you want to get in touch about Selkie and about signing up to the network, you can email either myself or Sophie on the emails on screen. You can also keep up to date with us via our mailing list, and there's a link for that on our website. Also keep up to date with us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We post quite a lot on there, and we may look to do a discussion forum on LinkedIn following our next webinars. Yep, and we've been working a bit on our website, so that is now back up and running as well, and we'll be posting a bit more news on there for you in coming days. So that's it from me, really. Just, yeah, thanks for coming to the webinar. Hopefully it's been useful and hopefully piquing people's interest in the sector. So yeah, please get in touch.
Thank you for that, Sarah. And yeah, as you mentioned, you can check out all the online and social media links there to find out more about Selkie. TJ, shall we go back to the Mentimeter now and see if we can have a look at the results that people have inputted? If you haven't inputted anything into the meter yet, guys, feel free to do so via the link that I believe TJ is going to bring up for us shortly.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
So yeah, this Mentimeter is a really good way for us to understand what's going on. Oh, brilliant. We've had lots of response. So as you can see there, most of the people who've responded are in Wales. We have, yeah, a good UK spread, some in Ireland, some in Europe, some from further away. Interesting. predominantly male. Yeah, let's keep on going through. So we have a number of the companies who are involved here today, so it's interesting to see. Nice. Cool. Already a good number involved in the marine energy sector. What are your thoughts on some of these, TJ?
I see this word "cachao" is coming up. If they could let us know in the chat who they are, what they do.
So a bunch of operations and maintenance companies already in attendance. All of you guys who are already working within the sector in this field, it'd be really useful if you help fill in Fiona's questionnaire. That will feed into the tool, which will help drive down costs for the sector.
Some have done work at the offshore wind farms.
One commercial dive operator.
They could make themselves known as well in the chat. Some good companies to experience removing devices on the seabed. Very useful for our O&M models.
Quite a few already a member of the MEW database and network, which is good to hear. You should also sign up to the Selkie network so you can get more help and advice there. Yeah, all of those contacts that Sarah just posted for LinkedIn and Twitter and such, if you want to connect, Selkie will then be able to deliver additional support.
The NOF could be the Norwegians. That could be Jan.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jan. There's a good contacts on advertising our services, which is a great reason for joining the database or network. Who would you like to network with? Anyone with engineering, technical development projects? That's what these webinars are about. It's about networking, and this is only the second one in our series. We had planned to have large, sorry Jay, we had planned to have large face-to-face supply chain events, but we are reaching out now online. And
so you are also planning on hosting some workshops in the future to have a more engaging format for people to take part in, is that correct?
That's correct. We'll have larger formats
Yeah.
for the Selkie network, and have breakout rooms, SME introductions, anything we can think of. And there's a lot going on in that sector, and we have people involved in the project who are like MEW, who are very experienced at presenting and handling these events. Identify gap in the market.
There's some interesting things displayed here. You know, some assistance will be needed in tendering processes. Some more knowledge needs to be shared on the unique requirements of certifications and qualifications. So this is all stuff that could feed into future events from Selkie to help fill these gaps. There's sustainability awareness as well. Do we have any more questions on here, TJ? I'm conscious that we have a few more questions that would be good to address to our panelists before we wrap up.
I just wanted to mention about the key skills and the areas of innovation. We are hoping to host a webinar on this, diversifying and innovating and transferring skills into the renewable sector. The company who's owning maintenance tools before, excellent. We're looking for industry input as to what we can expect and what these companies would look for in our O&M tool. Yeah, that's it, Jay.
Cool. So I'm just conscious we had a question that was sent in beforehand, which I haven't actually been able to address thus far. So this goes out to all of our panelists, really, everybody who's been involved in giving the presentations and speaking today. Given the increasing focus on marine pollution, I wonder to what degree highly biodegradable long-life lubricants are now seen by operators and maintenance companies as a viable option within the tidal stream and wave sector.
Should I start? I could say.
Yeah, if you like. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you for the question. Because the question came in beforehand, I've done a little bit of research, but not so much. And I can sort of say, you know, we as Monesto, you know, we're conscious of the potential environmental impact of what we do, and work to sort of reduce that as much as possible. And we do use biodegradable lubricants as within parts of our turbine. So that's something that we're already looking into. I can't give you the exact specifications of those, but you know, I'm sure as we develop and have more devices in the water, the usage of that will increase. So I think that would be my answer. So yes, we use it, and you know, the more devices in the water we have, the more of it we will use.
So that question came in from Phil Hindley of Panelin UK Limited, who produces sustainable biodegradable lubricants. So Phil, I'd really recommend that you join up to the Selkie network, and we can facilitate some networking, and so you could be able to feed in your product to the industry. I think as time moves forward, there's only going to be more demand for products with this kind of added value associated with sustainability. Just looking to see if we have a few more questions. Have there been many lessons learned from the Cornish Wave Hub project? I'm not sure to what extent, if anybody on the panel today has been involved in the Cornish Wave Hub project. I don't think so, no. So we are trying to facilitate shared lesson learning within both MEW and Selkie, particularly as more devices become deployed and, you know, more supply chain companies become involved. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that one? I don't think anybody has
Just
had.
to reiterate, like you're saying, Jay, we are looking for information gathering, any of those lessons learned. So we'll be approaching key developers as well, as sending out our questionnaire generally via our LinkedIn, via Twitter, via the website, but we'll be looking into the lessons learned by, for example, Wave Hub.
Thank you, Fiona. Also, just a message that's coming from Ian Masters of Swansea University, who's also involved in the Selkie project. If the attendees suggest ideas on how we can help you connect with other companies and connect with us, you know, get in touch. We're very much about networking and facilitating, and you know, addressing these challenges and collaborating as the sector progresses and evolves. I think that's all the questions that we have for now. Yeah. So I'd just like to thank all of the panelists for coming in today and dealing with our technical issues and giving great presentations. Thank you, everybody who's attended. I hope that this has been of value to you, and I really, as I've said a few times now, really encourage you to engage and to connect with us so that we can facilitate future support and action and collaboration in driving this sector forward. So yeah, thank you all, and goodbye.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you, everyone.